So yesterday, we went through some of the verses. I think after verse number 6, and at the end, in the verse number 5 and 6, where the author, the Shandeva, discussed how easy it is for us to have a non-virtuous and negative thoughts because of our past imprint and a strong defilement, because of the strong defilement and previous imprint, how easy it is for us to have non-virtuous and negative thoughts. On the other hand, how difficult it is to have a virtuous thought, and how difficult it is to have virtuous thought. And even when we do have virtuous thought, those virtuous thoughts are not strong, weak, and it does not last, for a long time. The virtuous thought, even when we do have virtuous thought, sometimes it's very weak, not so strong, intense. And even sometimes we have an intense and strong virtuous thought, it does not last for long. On the other hand, the negative, non-virtuous thought, we have so much all the time, effortlessly. And not only that, is very strong, a lot of time, strong, intense. Not only that, one non-virtuous thoughts last hours, days, weeks, months, sometimes years, And so, and when we think that, and it feels like almost like, sometimes almost like hopeless, But here, Shandeva say, if we can develop the Bodhisattva mind, then that mind can overcome and destroy all these negative thoughts and non-virtuous thoughts. And that is what we need, That is such a powerful, such an incredible, powerful attitude or the thought of Bodhisattva mind is the only one that can destroy such a very strong, powerful, negative karma or karmic potentials, obscurations, and all those negative and non-virtuous thoughts. So such Bodhisattva is incredibly precious, Such Bodhisattva mind or attitude incredibly precious. The Bodhisattva mind is the state of mind that cherish others more than oneself. Bodhisattva mind is the one which regard others more important than oneself. The Bodhisattva mind is the one which exchange self with others or other with self, which means, being more concerned with the well-being of others more than oneself. Such attitude is incredibly powerful and precious. It's totally opposite of our ordinary way of thinking, normal ordinary way of thinking. Normal ordinary way of our thinking, our attitude is, I'm more important than others. And we cherish ourselves more than others. And we work for well-being of ourselves, even on the expense of others, well-beings. But the Bodhisattva mind is just the opposite. Therefore, it's such a rare and incredibly precious. And to have that kind of attitude, even for 1 second, is incredibly precious. Even to have that one thought is incredibly precious. the thought to be benefit to each and every sentient beings is such a rare thought, an incredible precious thought. And to be, even we do not have that Bodhisattva attitude at the moment, spontaneously, effortlessly, even with the effort, even if we can have just even for one moment, even 1 second, that is incredibly precious, incredibly precious. To be able to listen to those teachings, to be able to read teaching on that Bodhisattva mind, Bodhisattva practice, to be able to listen is also very precious and very rare. So, so as I mentioned yesterday, in relation to the story of Asangas, his stories, so he was able to purify incredible amount of negative karma by moment of great compassion, bodhicitta, which he had not been able to purify with other practice and meditation for 12 years. And such is a powerful, incredible, powerful practice to purify. As well as is an incredible, powerful practice to accumulate merit. Incredible, powerful to, incredible, powerful practice to accumulate merit as well. So, I think it will come later as well, that part. So I think, so I think yesterday we went up to the verse number 6, and today verse number 7, where it says, all the Buddhas who have contemplated for many eons have seen it to be beneficial. So it means the Bodhicitta mind. For by it, the limitless masses of beings will quickly attain supreme state of bliss. So the Buddhas, when they reflected on what is the most beneficial for oneself and to others, they found the Bodhicitta attitude, the Bodhicitta mind is the most beneficial. It's the most beneficial for our own personal well-beings, as well as for the well-being of all other sentient beings. Because through the Bodhicitta mind, then one can be able to help the sentient beings and lead and guide them from the state of happiness to the ultimate happiness of fully enlightenment. So so if the Buddhas has found this the most beneficial with the enlightened mind, then there shouldn't be any doubt that this is the most beneficial practice and virtuous mind, state of mind that we should try to cultivate through the practice. Just by having that thought for a moment, you know. There is a story of many stories, you know. There is a stories of, I don't know whether it was during the Buddha's time or another time. I cannot recollect. But there was a flood, and then there was a mother and daughter. Both of them were taken by the flood in the river, you know. And the mother has incredible compassion to save her daughter. She wanted to save her daughter, even though she has this feeling, you know, she would rather save her daughter. And daughter has same feeling, you know, she felt like she need in her moment that she wanted to protect and save her mother. Of course, they couldn't protect each other's because they were kind of rushed by this flood water, you know. They couldn't, but they have that mind, you know, they have this incredible compassionate mind. Instead of being self occupied, but they were concerned with each other's. They were concerned with each other's, wanting to save each other, wanting to have that benefit others. And because of that mind, of course, both of them died in that flood. But because of having that moment of that mind, concern for the other beings instead of oneself, they were immediately kind of born in a high rebirth as a result of that positive state of mind in that moment. And there is also a story of Buddha Shakyamuni, one of the early, when he was, before he entered the path, where he developed a great compassion, you know, in a state again. He was born in that, you know, in one of the hell realms. And then he and his friend were being forced to kind of fool what you call when you do in the old time, when you plug your field, you know, with a cow, they pull it, plow it, yeah. So like that, you know, he and his friend was asked to pull that plow, and his friend there was very weak. He couldn't pull it, so he was getting beaten up very badly because he couldn't pull it. So the Buddha's previous life at that time, he was not even in Bodhisattva path at that time, earlier than before that. Not fully, he was not Bodhisattva even at that time. He felt incredible compassion, you know, for him not being able to pull it because of weakness, at the same time being beaten up so badly because of that. And because of his incredible compassion, he told, you know, let him go. I will fool myself on behalf of him, you know, both of us. I will fool myself, let him go, you know, free him. And then, how dare you say that? And then he was kind of beaten, and he died. And immediately after he died, he was born in a high rebirth because of that image, kind of that compassion, you know. So there are many, you know, those are some where just having one moment of that compassionate mind, bodhicitta mind, purify so much negative karma. 1 second, one moment of having that, such is powerful mind. And that is why, you know, all the teachers, they always encourage us to ourselves we can try loving kindness, bodhicitta mind. That would be wonderful, you know. Okay. Then the verse number 8. Those who wish to destroy the many sorrow of their conditioned existence, those who wish all beings to experience a multitude of happiness, and those who wish to experience much happiness should never forsake the awakening mind. So anyone who want to overcome the suffering and pain in samsara, cyclic existence, one need to practice the Bodhisattva mind. If you want to overcome all the suffering in the samsara, the suffering of yourself, the suffering of others, the practice you need to do is the awakened mind. You shouldn't give up awakened mind, the Bodhisattva mind. Instead, we try to work on that. In the same way, if you want to have happiness while we're in samsara, happiness of oneself, happiness for others, then one need to practice the Bodhisattva mind. The Bodhisattva mind will bring the happiness. While we're in happiness, the joy, while in samsara, it brings the happiness. Okay. And if you want to achieve the highest level of joy, of fully enlightenment, then again, we should not forsake and give up Bodhisattva mind. Instead, we need to practice the Bodhisattva mind. So the Bodhisattva mind and the practice of Bodhisattva is the cause of temporary happiness while in samsara, as well as cause of ultimate happiness of enlightenment. So it's cause of short-term happiness, long-term happiness. It is cause of happiness of this life, cause of happiness of all future life, and cause of happiness of fully enlightenment. So therefore, like in our life, we put a lot of effort, even it is for a temporary happiness, isn't it? Even for just temporary happiness. Sometimes maybe the happiness, just for a weekend. Not even really happiness, kind of, but still samsaric happiness, and just for a very short time, weekend, and we spend so much time, energy, trying to prepare, think, plan, and accumulate the source resources, working so many hard for months, saving for months, years, planning everything, and then for what? Maybe one weekend. And sometimes it is not even happiness. It turns, we have conflict, and then we end up fighting, and then, it didn't turn out the way we thought it will turn out. But even it turned out well, and even we had enjoy, even we had a good time, still it's just a short time. But here, if we can develop Bodhisattva mind, then, we can have happiness, throughout all this life, futures, and until we achieve enlightenment. So therefore, we should, here Shantideva is saying we should put effort and to cultivate and develop, and not to give up and forsake, even it might not be so easy, even though it might not be so easy to develop at the very beginning, but because it is so important and so beneficial in short term, long term, we should not give up and try to practice. So that is the way Shantideva was saying. The moment an awakened mind arises in those fettered and weak in the jail of cyclic existence, they will name a son of Sukata and will be revered by the both men and gods of the world. So it's saying, the moment we cultivate and generate the Bodhisattva mind, the awakening and Bodhisattva, from that very moment, even you are a very weak or fetter, such as, whether you are physically weak, whether you are financially weak, whether you are poor, no matter what gender you are, no matter how educated, uneducated, no matter whether you are rich, poor, no matter what status in society, that very moment you become the Bodhisattvas, the child of the Buddha. The very moment you cultivate that Bodhisattva mind, that moment you become the noble child of the Buddha or the Bodhisattvas. That persons. And even in animal, even as animal, if the animal develop a Bodhisattva mind, that animal become Bodhisattva. Okay, any beings, any sentient beings, the moment they are able to cultivate, develop Bodhisattva mind, the realization of that very moment, then they become Bodhisattvas, regardless of whatever physical form they have, regardless of whatever their status in the societies. They become the Bodhisattva, and being the Bodhisattva, then they become the objects of respect, object of homage, object of homage, respect, and object of offering from all the human beings, even the world, God, and all sentient beings. Because that very moment, that persons or that sentient beings has taken on responsibility to liberate each and every sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering. Wouldn't that sentient beings be object of respect? I mean, in our world, if someone has saved 100 persons, we respect that persons. If they save 1,000, then we will have even more respect. If they say 100,000, we will even have more respect. And save from one particular instant of danger. Or if someone feeds someone, we respect them. But here, the Bodhisattvas, when someone cultivates that Bodhisattva mind, they have taken responsibility, they have dedicated their life, they have made these incredible determinations to protect and liberate each and every sentient being from all their sufferings. Not just one suffering, but all the suffering. Not one sentient beings, all sentient beings. What will be more, who would be more higher object of respect than that? Who would be the more higher object of homage than that? So that is normally when we think, we have very high respect to the the Buddhas, maybe we might not have as equal respect for the Bodhisattvas. It seems like they are kind of less, you know. But when it comes to the Bodhisattva, you know, incredible, incredible. And especially it's even incredible when they themselves are in samsara, and still, when you are not in samsara, it's more easier, you know. But when you yourself is in problem and you help others, it's special, isn't it? Like someone helping someone when they are not in problem. Let's say someone who has abundance of wealth, and then they give someone who is poor to help them. And then someone who is very poor himself or herself, but still helping someone who needs it. It's incredible. And Bodhisattva is like that. They themselves are in samsara. They themselves are in a state of suffering to a certain degree. But still, despite that, they dedicate their life for the well-being of others, being more concerned for the well-being of others. And so definitely such bodhisattvas definitely deserve all the respect, and they become object of respect, homage, offerings, you know. So that is And so then next in the verse number 10 is like a supreme gold making elixir. For it transforms the unclean body we have taken into priceless jewel of Buddha form. Therefore, firmly seize this awakened mind. So it is like a, you know, alchemy, you know, where it can transform ordinary metal into the gold. That Bodhisattva mind is like that. So this human body, you know, which is a result of our negative karma and the delusions, or our contaminated karma and the delusions, you know. Which is something to be abandoned, normally speaking, because it's a result of our contaminated karma and delusions, something we want to. But through the power of that Bodhisattva mind, you transform that body, that aggregate, and that your life, and turn into a, through the power of that Bodhisattva mind, you transform that aggregate into a the Buddha's form, something very precious. Okay, so and then if we try to bring that in, you know, the Bodhisattva mind is like an alchemy in a sense that it transforms all the ordinary actions into a virtuous actions through the power of that Bodhisattva mind. Okay? Normally, our act of eating is just an ordinary act. Okay? Normally, our act of eating, sleeping, you know, cleaning our body, cleaning the place, driving, you know, walking, hiking, exercise, whatever we do, those are normally speaking, there's a very ordinary activities. But when we do that, all of this with the Bodhisattva motivations, then all of those acts become virtues. Your act of eating become virtues. Your act of sleeping become virtuous. Your act of walking, hiking, running, exercise become virtuous. Your act of cleaning, cooking become virtuous. Your act of driving to the workplace and working and doing job, whatever you are doing, whatever job you are doing, all of them become virtuous. So our 24 hours activities can become a virtues. All can be transformed into virtues. And that can be transformed into virtues through the power of the alchemy of the Bodhisattva mind. Isn't that be wonderful? You know, we find very hard to create a virtuous, engage in virtuous activities. We find very hard to engage in virtuous activities in every day. We find lack of time to engage in something virtuous. But by cultivating the Bodhisattva mind, bringing the Bodhisattva motivations in all your activities, then you have transformed all of them into virtues. Then you have time to do virtues 24 hours. Do you get it? At the moment, we feel like, oh, I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to do laundries, I need to go to the grocery, I need to go and take care of all this, and I don't have time to do really practice. I don't have really time to engage in virtues. But here, while you are doing all of that, try to do with Bodhisattva mind, with the Bodhisattva intention, motivations. Doing the same thing that you have been doing so far and which we have been doing now, what you need to bring is the Bodhisattva intention, motivation in each of them. And by bringing that Bodhisattva intention and motivation in that, by doing that, then you transform all of those ordinary activities into something spiritual, something virtuous activities. And then we are creating virtues 24 hours. And when we are creating so many virtues, 24 hours and positive karma, 24 hours like that, then enlightenment wouldn't be too far away. Then it will be so easy to purify the negative karma. So that is like, and yeah, that is why in the Lojong's, all the Lojong teachings, practice, they emphasize so much on the motivations. As it is said in the 7-point of mind training, the two important beginning and end. And beginning important is the right motivations. End is the dedications, correct dedications. And you find that in all the Lojongs, the importance of that intention, motivations. Whether your actions, whatever action we engage, whether it becomes virtuous or not, it depends on the intention, the motivations. Even when you are trying to meditate, if your intention, motivation is selfish attitude, then, it might not become so virtuous. The act itself look like very spiritual, but it might not be spiritual because of your incorrect intentions. motivations. On the other hand, our act of running, walking, hiking, exercising seems like very ordinary activity, doesn't seem very spiritual, very virtuous. But if you do the right intention, motivation, each of them become virtuous and spiritual. And so, I have a friend, very interesting background, who joined in army, as a parachute, and then police, and then as a police, undercover police in the drug world, and then becoming a lawyer and successful lawyer, and then he had a very bad stroke, quite young age, in 50s, he had a stroke. So he lost everything, so anyway, so he told me, so after that, so the doctor told him he had to kind of train his brain. His situation got so bad, that when he go to a restaurant and when he orders something, he want to order something, he has mind, and in his mouth it comes something else. Disconnections, because there's damage to the brain, disconnection between what he's thinking and what comes in the mouth. And so he said he have to actually physically show Minu, because he can't, what he wanted to order, and when he tried to order, it doesn't come in his mouth, something else comes. And he lost all his memories, and he had to retrain to read and all of that, and the doctor told him that he had to retrain everything, he had to do everything. Before he was doing right, now he had to do left, and many other things, in terms of diet, in terms of exercise. And one of the things that they recommend him is that he tried to study something that he had never studied before. So that is, he said, in order to train his mind and kind of build up brain and his mind, he started to study philosophy, because that is something he had never studied, Eastern philosophy, And while he was trying to study Eastern philosophy, then he also encountered the Buddhism, and so he had been studying Buddhism as well. At the very beginning, he didn't study it as a spiritual path. He was studying to train his brain, okay? That was his intention and motivations. So he can train his brain, he can gain his brain, so he can go back to his business as a lawyer, But I think over the time, it changed his mind, So he really took it as a path, not just now is his path, and very dedicated, fully developed. And he said one of the things he noticed at the very beginning when he started to come to the teachings, one of the things he noticed, and that kind of had a strong impact on him, is the importance of the motivations. because he says he keep on hearing that all the time in all the teachings, the importance of the right intention, the motivations. And for him, that is something totally new for him, he says. Because he said in his world, before, in his world, it's all about achieving the goal. And it's all about achieving the goal and how to achieve it. The intention, motivation is not the factor there. I have a goal to achieve that, and how can I achieve that? So it is all about that. And for him to hear the importance of motivation, if you want to achieve something, what is your intention, motivation to achieve that? Because he said that is something he had never thought before. What is the intention for me to achieve that, accomplish that? What is the, never thought that way. Always you want to accomplish, achieve something, and then whatever means there is a way to achieve, accomplish, then you engage in. So anyways, it just reminds me that his experience and his impression that it has on him, on that, so the motivations. So yeah. So that is the verse number that and then 11. Since the limitless mind of the soul guide of the world has upon true investigation seen its preciousness, all being wishing to be free from worldly abodes should firmly take hold of precious awakening. So again, it is saying, the Buddhas, who are the soul guides of the world, the Buddhas, fully enlightened ones, with this limitless mind, where without any obscurations, with that limitless enlightened mind, limitless mind. And when through that limitless mind, when they investigate, contemplate, and they saw the preciousness of this awakening mind of Bodhisattva, the preciousness of the awakening mind of the Bodhisattva, and therefore anyone who want to free them from the samsara, from the samsara, the worldly abode or samsara, they should take hold of the precious awakening mind, the Bodhisattva, and never give up and practice. Those who have not already actualized, try to practice to actualize it. Those who have already actualized, continue to practice so that it doesn't decrease, but instead you can hold on and maintain on. And those who are able to hold on and maintain on, continue to practice in order to increase and improve more and more until you reach the highest level of that Bodhisattva mind when you become fully enlightened. And so therefore, yeah, it is incredibly precious, the Bodhisattva mind. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of our meeting, is totally opposite of normally how we think. To have such thoughts is so rare. Okay. And next one, all the other virtues are like plantain tree, for after bearing the fruit, they simply perish. But the perennial tree of awakened mind, unceasing, bear fruit and thereby flourish without end. So again, all other virtues, we create a virtuous actions. We create through that virtuous action, we create a positive karma, and then we experience the result of that, whatever that positive karma, that virtuous actions, and then it's done. It's done. So it's like a banana, like banana plantain or banana trees. Like when a trunk, they grow banana only once from one trunk. Have you noticed that? Yeah, like if you have seen the bananas, they grow trunk and this produce banana, and next year it doesn't produce. Another trunk comes, So same trunk does not give the fruit continuously, One trunk give the fruit one year, and that is it. Then it gives the banana from other trunk, but not the same trunk, It expands. So it is like that, Once you experience that, then, but like others, tree, like let's say, apple trees, then they continue to give the fruit, not just 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years. I don't know whether they will be able to give up to 100 years or not. Do you think so? In 100 years? I know I hear some of the trees, they are old, like 20 years, 30 years, and some of them seem to be giving still fruit, but I don't know how long it gives. But definitely it continue to give the fruit years after years. So the virtues that we create out of that bodhicitta mind is like that, unceasing. Even you experience the result of that virtues, still you can continue to until you achieve enlightenment, never ending. Because the bodhicitta mind is directed toward enlightenment and directed to all sentient beings. So then it becomes limitless. I don't know whether there is, I think it might come, I'm trying to remember whether it's in the same chapter, but where, for example, if you have one drop of water, okay? If you have one drop of water, and then let's say, there's some heat on the rock. You drop one drop of water on that heat, and then it cool down a little bit, but then that water dry up, dries. So whatever cooling, whatever small done is finished. The effect of that. But if you drop that one drop of water in the oceans, it will remain some part of that as long as the ocean remains. So the virtues that we create with the bodhicitta mind is like that, one drop of water in the oceans. As long as the ocean is there, some part of that drop of water is always there. So that is how it never ceases, endless until enlightenment. Because when we create any virtuous actions out of bodhicitta mind, then we dedicate that virtues for all sentient beings. So that virtues is created as equal as all sentient beings, which is countless. And also when you create any virtues out of that bodhicitta mind, we create until we achieve enlightenment, because that bodhicitta mind. And so therefore, until we achieve enlightenment, you will continue to experience the result of that. There is a story of, as in Tibet, someone who is kind of smart, he and he is one of another persons, or they were kind of going somewhere, and they in Tibet they use a samba, which is roasted barley. That's one of the main staple. Roasted barley flour, and so they eat with tea. So that is one of the main Tibetan staple. So someone has they were going somewhere and together, and someone has a big amount of the samba left, and one of the person, he's running out of his samba, but he had a samba made out of something else, because in samba you can add different things. People add, like sometimes they add the main is roasted barley, but sometimes they add kind of also nuts, whatever nuts you want to add. Sometimes they can also add corn as different things. So he made something else, and he said to the other friend, we can miss our samba, because his samba is different than him. And so they miss it, and then he keep on coming to get the samba, and he said, your share of samba has run out now, because he has. And he said, no, we miss, so as long as mine is there, it's missed, so as long as samba is there, his share is there. So the other guy couldn't say much, because it has been mixed. So how can you say his share is not there? Everything's been mixed. So that one was very smart. He was running, he's running, maybe only left for a couple of days, and he told him, let's share, because share those together, mix together. That was what he said, mix together, because it's different. And so they mix together, and then after some time, the other guy says, you have been run out, you're run out because you had very little, what we mix, you have little. And he said, but my share is still there, it is mixed there, something like that, that remind me of that kind of that story, So as long as it is to be mixed, that the share is always there, similar like that. So therefore, if we want to create a virtuous actions or positive karma, that result of such karma or virtuous action that never end, that we continue to experience the result of that continually, endlessly, then the bodhicitta mind, then we need the bodhicitta mind. If we practice with that bodhicitta mind, then all of those virtues that practice with that bodhicitta mind become like that. Yeah, so that's where. And like entrusting myself to a brave man when greatly afraid, by entrusting myself to this awakening being, I shall be swiftly liberated, even if I have committed extremely unbearable evils. Why then do the conscientious not be devoted themselves to this? So again, using, here he gives few different examples with the plant trees, with the alchemy, and then here another examples, powerful persons. For example, especially in the old days, maybe, when there is a very powerful king or leaders, where they are completely absolute power, where they have absolute power, So even you have done something, broken the rules, even you have broken the rules of the law, the rules of the place or countries. If you have someone like a friend, a king, or most powerful leader, then you will not be punished for that. You will be liberated. You will not get punished from the breaking that rules by relying on that most powerful. And here, same thing here, saying by relying on this most powerful Bodhisattva mind, by relying with this most powerful Bodhisattva mind, then even we have created some of strong negative karma, we don't experience those negative karma, because that can be completely purified by the power of that Bodhisattva mind. And by the power of that Bodhisattva mind, we can be liberated and free from having to experience such a result of such a negative karma. And so therefore, he is saying, therefore, if we are careful, if we are smart, if we are wise, we should rely on this Bodhisattva mind. Because we continue to create negative karma, and if we rely in trust and rely on this Bodhisattva mind, that negative karma cannot harm so much, cannot damage so much through the power of that Bodhisattva mind. And so therefore, again, why we need to cultivate the Bodhisattva mind, why we need to develop the Bodhisattva mind, the importance of cultivating the Bodhisattva mind. Again, so here Shantideva explaining by many different examples, giving to understand that, and then again another example using the fire, 14, just like the fire at the end of an age, it instantly consumes all the great evils. Its unfathomable advantage was taught to disciple Sudana by the wise Lord Maitreya. Also, another example is like in some of the Buddhist scriptures, they explain about how the world, creation of the world, how the world started, and then for certain years it remains, and then it come to the end, and when it come to the end of the planet, the world, then they talk about coming to an end at different times, sometimes through the element of fire, sometimes through the element of wind, sometimes through the element of earth, sometimes through the element of fire, wind, so 4 elements, Sometimes the world will be destroyed by the water like floods, Sometimes it will be destroyed by the element of earth, like earthquakes, shake everything and earthquake. Sometimes it is being destroyed by the element of wind energy, like for when we have like tornadoes, tornadoes like that, then it blow everything's very bad. And then by the heat, maybe we are coming to that going towards that it seems like sometime, But here, when they talk about the fire at that time, the heat at that time is said like equal of 7 suns. Okay, the heat is so hot, is equal of 7 suns. So that will burn everything, because the heat is so strong, it burn everything, and that come to the end of so that it ends. So that fire is so powerful at that time. The heat at that time is so powerful, because the heat is as equal as 7 seven suns, and so it consumes and burn everything, even the most strong mountains, it burns all of that. The same way, the Bodhisattva is like that heat and that fire that can consume all the powerful negative energy, all the powerful negative um, karma, all the um, powerful negative energies. Yeah, so it is like that. And so then the advantage or the benefit of the Bodhisattva mind is taught to Bodhisattvas Sudana by Lord Maitreya in the sutra, so those Shandeva explaining all of those that he's saying he didn't make up, okay, all this. He didn't make up, but it is actually taught in the sutra. And then in sutra, the Lord Maitreya was explaining all of that with all this benefit of the Bodhisattva to the Bodhisattvas Sudana, So up to that, then next it comes the Bodhisattva. There are two types of Bodhisattva, and so it is coming to that. First of all, there's two Bodhisattvas. There's conventional Bodhisattva, ultimate Bodhisattva. Okay. So sometimes you hear that terms, ultimate Bodhisattva and conventional Bodhisattva. Sometimes you hear or you see those two terms quite often. Okay. Conventional Bodhisattva, we spoke yesterday, the wish to achieve enlightenment in order to liberate all sentient beings from all the suffering and cause of suffering. That's conventional Bodhisattva. Ultimate Bodhisattva is the wisdom realizing emptiness directly that has been supported by that conventional Bodhisattva. Okay. For example, the wisdom realizing emptiness directly itself is not Bodhisattva by itself, because even the Arhat has that wisdom realizing emptiness directly. But it is not a ultimate Bodhisattva, because that wisdom is not being associated or supported or complemented by the conventional Bodhisattva. Okay? But the wisdom realizing emptiness directly that has been associated or complemented or supported by the conventional Bodhisattva, then that is the ultimate Bodhisattva. Then within the conventional Bodhisattva, then there are two types of Bodhisattva. So here is talking. So here when he says, in brief, awakened mind should be understood to be of two types. So that is here when Shandeva is explaining about two types here, he's not talking about conventional ultimate Bodhisattva, but he's talking about the conventional Bodhisattva that itself has two types. Okay. And so what are those two? So the mind that aspires to awaken, so that is one, and the mind that ventured in to do so. So the Bodhisattva that aspire enlightenment, and the Bodhisattva that engage, the Bodhisattva. So sometimes it's aspiring Bodhisattva, engaging Bodhisattva. Aspiring Bodhisattva, engaging Bodhisattva. So those two types, aspiring Bodhisattva and engaging Bodhisattva. So what is the difference between the aspiring Bodhisattva and engaging Bodhisattva? So the next verse will explain that. you know. So that is where as is understood by the distinction. So how can you distinguish between those two, between the aspiring to go and actual going? So the wise understand in turn distinguishing between those two. So it is saying, you know, aspiring bodhicitta is like the wish to go, wish to achieve. For example, so example, he's giving an example. For example, if you have to go to the grocery to do grocery, okay? First, you have the wish to go, okay? First, you have the wish to go to do grocery. That is the aspiring bodhicitta. That is like the aspiring bodhicitta. The wish to achieve enlightenment. You have the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it is like the wish to go to the grocery. Even that wish is great, but it's not enough. Just having the wish, if you don't go to the grocery, you will not be able to shop, and you wouldn't be able to, cook and fulfill your needs. If you don't really actually go to the grocery and do the shopping itself. So first you have the wish, and that wish leads you to go. And so the moment you started going to the grocery, whether you are walking, whether you are driving, whatever form of transportation you are taking to go to the grocery to do the shopping, while you are actually started going now to the grocery, still you have the wish of wanting to go. You are going, while you are going, the act of going, while you are engaging into the act of going, at the same time, you still have that state of mind with the wish wanting to do the shopping and to grow grocery. That mind, that aspiring, that bodhicitta mind, while you are going, similar like that. So while you have that aspiring mind, you actually engage in the Bodhisattva practice, such as 6 perfections. So like going to the grocery, now you are actually engaging into the practice itself, driven by that intentions. And so while you have that wish to achieve enlightenment, at the same time, simultaneously, you are engaged in a Bodhisattva practice, such as 6 perfections. You know, you are engaged in the practice of generosity, while you are having that the bodhicitta mind to achieve enlightenment. You know, while you have that bodhicitta mind, you are engaged in practice of generosity. You are engaged in the practice of moral discipline. You are engaged in the practice of patience. You are engaged in the practice of joyous effort and virtue. You are engaged in the practice of meditative concentration. You are engaged in the practice of wisdom. So it is like then you are really actually engaging in the practice. So that is the engaging bodhicitta. You are engaged in the practice. So that become more powerful than the aspiring bodhicitta. The engaging bodhicitta become more powerful than aspiring bodhicitta mind. You know. So I don't know. Maybe I can kind of take some questions. Does anyone has any questions? Any questions? Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
First of all, thank you, Geshe, so much. I wanted to say that yesterday as well. It was a great teaching. Actually, on the aspiring and engaging bodhicitta, so just so I make sure I'm understanding it, even when using the grocery store metaphor, even when we're driving, we're still aspiring, but because we are not at the grocery store yet, in a sense. But once we get into the grocery store, then we're engaging. Is that a good, am I understanding this correctly?
The moment you started walking or driving, that itself is engaging.
Okay. Okay. So it's no longer aspiring because we are taking the action.
The actions to do
Okay.
that.
Okay. So, okay. Thank you very much.
So the very moment you started to move, that very moment, then you have started to engage towards that. Yes.
And then this was just one last quick question that I had.
It doesn't have to be last questions, okay? You can have plenty of questions.
I know. I want to make sure everybody else has had time. It was, I was just wondering, okay, so sometimes, not sometimes, should we more so rejoice in the joy that the bodhicitta thought even arises? Because sometimes it feels as if, it's always like, oh, I don't have enough bodhicitta, or I'm not there yet and whatnot. But when you were speaking earlier and you said, that it's such a rare occurrence, that, it's almost like we lose, it seems sometimes like we lose focus on the fact that that thought even arose. And it's like, oh, we want the next one. It's like, okay, that's great that I got that one, but now I need to get another one, and then I need to get another one. And it's like we forget to rejoice in a sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We need to rejoice. By rejoicing, by rejoicing is one way of keeping that bodhicitta mind alive in a way. And also, just by rejoicing, it creates new merit, virtues, and it also gives us more inspirations. So definitely, we need to rejoice in all the virtues. And again, I think definitely sometimes we can be harsh on ourselves, because we are not there at the moment. We want to be there, but we are not there. But also we have to rejoice that even just trying, even when we're not successful, even just trying, even just saying the words, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May all sentient beings have happiness and cause of happiness. Even just saying that word is so precious. Most of the people in the world, they don't even have access to that. They don't even think of all sentient beings. Doesn't come in their thoughts. It's something, normally you think of your families, your friends. Sometimes you go beyond that, maybe all the people. And maybe some others, maybe they might be going before, maybe some animals, maybe not all animals. And maybe some of them, maybe all animals. But that is it, But here, at least we are thinking even beyond all the human beings, all the animals, but beyond that, all whatever other sentient beings there are, taking that all of them in considerations and wishing them all the happiness, wishing them all the free from suffering. That is extremely rare, and very precious, extremely rare and very precious. And from that perspective, we have to be so, rejoice and grateful that we have been exposed to such teachings. And through those exposures to those teachings, we have that concept in our mind. That concept, that ideas, even though we are not successful to be able to develop that, effortless bodhicitta all the time at the moment, but still we try sometimes our practice is better, sometimes it's not good, but we try. Sometimes we are successful, sometimes we don't have so successful, but we have tried. That is incredibly wonderful. And even just to have, even just that word, even just saying word is incredibly precious and rare. And so definitely we should rejoice, extremely rejoice. You know, one time I was having a discussions. One of friend was kind of driving me, you know, to pick me up for the teachings and driving, and we were discussing, and and he started to, we were talking about his practice and all of that, and he was saying, um, even though he had been practicing a little while now, um, sometimes he feel like that he hasn't made much progress, or not much changes, you know. So then I was asking him, do you think of all sentient beings and happiness of all sentient beings? And he said, yes. You know, do you try to pray for happiness of all sentient beings? He said, yes. Do you have that kind of feelings when you do motivations and every day? He said, yes. Did you have that thought before you met the Dharma? He said, no. So that itself is a huge transformation, a huge change. That itself. Before he met the Dharma, he has no concept of all sentient beings. Thinking about all sentient beings, never thought about all sentient beings, never pray and dedicate for all sentient beings. That itself is such a powerful progress, transformations. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that, because sometimes we can feel like how he felt, sometime. Yeah. Yes, please. Any other? Yes, please.
Thank you, Geshe, for another wonderful teaching. I'm not sure if this question makes sense because it just kind of arose in my mind, so forgive me if it doesn't. This morning I was listening to a teaching on karma, different ways to look at karma, and it gave the example of, or the distinction, I should say, between intentional karma and intended karma. The latter being kind of the verbal or physical outcome of our intention, as I understood it at least. And so as you were describing the two types of conventional bodhicitta, I wondered, is there an analogy here in the sense that one is aspirational and the other kind of is an extension of that, is the actually going? Is there a similarity there, or not necessarily? Thank you.
There is some similarity, but I think it also is not exactly same in terms of the karma. Of course, different schools have slightly different idea of those. Some schools, they will say karma has to be intentional. Okay, it's the mind. Then some other school, it doesn't have to be intentional. There could be intentional as well as intended. So that is the physical and verbal act out of that intentions. So if you take from that perspective, then I think that intended karma is not really intention itself. Okay, the intention drive you to do that actions, physical and verbal actions. But that verbal actions or the physical action itself is not the intentions. Okay. Whereas when we talk about this aspiring and engaging bodhicitta, both of them are aspiring or wish to achieve enlightenment. So both of them are state of mind. So engaging bodhicitta is not the act itself, but the mind aspiring to be both aspiring to achieve enlightenment at the time of acting. Do you get it? So it is not the act itself, but it's the mind wanting to achieve enlightenment while engaging in the action itself. Yeah, so can you see the difference? Yeah. So either both way, it is the mind itself. Okay. So if anyone has other questions, then maybe we can later. Or yes, please, Carol.
This is for the next section because I'm very interested. It said that even while you were sleeping. So I would love to know how one interprets, or the Buddhists interpret, the role of dreaming, during that sleeping state and the bodhicitta. I just happen to be a very active dreamer and I journal and keep track of those. So that would be for the next section. I think that's 2 or 3 more verses down. So just a question for later on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you so much. It's great.
Thank you. See you later in our
Yes.